Good evening,
Yay.
and welcome to the Budget Finance Committee workshop for the Town of Raymond, and I'll call the meeting to order. First on our agenda is review and discuss CIP for the fire department. Chief Tupper, would you like to fill us in? I handed out a worksheet for all of us to have so that we can list out what your items are, and then fill in the boxes for the expected year of the expenditure.
Yes. So yeah, you're right. There's a couple of things that need to move around here. The radio line and the SCBA line that were 10,000 each were actually we were combining those. The radios were going in as a grant this year, and we moved the SCBA out to next year in hopes that next year we will be able to put in for a grant. But we needed to budget something for it regardless, because if we don't get the grant, we will still need the SCBA's. So we're hopeful that we'll get the grant, and we'll really work hard for it, but we may not. That's always the risk. There's an engine one, tank one expenditure for 26. Engine one is a truck that is our aerial ladder as well as a pumper, so it's almost a quint. It's a very short ladder on the truck though, and it's done its job. It's 20+ years old now. Tank one is also 20+ years old. And both of these vehicles are starting to show us their signs of wear and tear. Plumbing is rusting out, and hydraulics and stuff like that have issues. So right now, the projected replacement of both of those together in a combination truck, one truck for both, is $1.4 million. Unfortunately, the vehicles have gone through the roof, and that we have no control over. So we're looking at that and trying to combine the two, and the philosophy behind that is that we're doing more with less, number one, and we're doing less, meaning less staffing is really where we're at. So we need to have better capability, excuse me, better capabilities with lower staffing. There's one truck missing off from here that was for this year's expenditure, and we had submitted a rescue replacement, ambulance replacement for our 2014 E Ford 450 van type rescue for $450,000. That would be a regional purchase where 5 ambulances are being purchased that are the same specifications as ours. We designed a spec, and 4 other entities, because there's some that aren't towns, have jumped aboard and agreed to buy the exact same ambulance. So we did an RFP just to formalize it, and sent that out in 450s where we came in at, which is approximately a $50,000 savings. And that's significant. And those trucks are about 18% a year in increase, unfortunately, is what we're seeing right now. So if ordered today, that vehicle would be here in January of 2027, making that truck a few years past its replacement date. So that's kind of a nutshell, I guess, coverage of this. We do have it planned out even further, but kind of cut the page off. So, I mean, we can go out 15 years if we need, pretty easily.
Okay,
and provide that for you. Yeah.
I have a question on the rescue E450.
Yes.
That's in the 25 budget.
That was originally put in the 25 budget. We have $115, I think, $1,000 that's available for that, and I guess we're just talking now what the options are. That's 115 there. We have 188,000 in total, leaving a balance of 260. So we've just got to figure out how we're going to do this. The truck won't be here till 2027.
What's the actual cost?
450,000. Yes.
That's if you ordered it today.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would go up if we were not doing a regional bid. Chances are it would be the 50,000 higher plus 18% for next year and other expenses. I don't understand the cost of chassis and what's going on with them right now, but it's crazy. It just is crazy for the chassis for the vehicle. We're actually not looking at a diesel chassis whatsoever. We're looking at a gas chassis, which is going to be about $15,000 to $20,000 cheaper than the diesel version. We're running that one right now in this 2014 ambulance, and it seems to be holding up really well. We don't think that will be a problem at all. The only difference is that the truck's a little lighter in the front end and doesn't navigate maybe so well when it's snowy and slippery out. Public Works gets out, gets sand down, and everywhere does, so we're able to travel most everywhere. And with the instant chains on the rear axle, when we do get into a little bit of trouble, usually we can get ourselves out of that. So we feel fine with that concept of going to the gas engine.
Is this what you had, the 75,000 a year that's been in there for
Yeah,
many, many years?
yeah.
So you save it, the idea is to keep saving it until you can replace, and the amount wasn't enough to keep up with inflation?
The amount isn't, I think we've really got to take a hard look at it. We're not, prices have exceeded our capabilities with 75,000. That's what's happened, obviously with everything. I mean, can't buy a Whopper with cheese meal for, it's double what it was a year ago. So that just kind of puts it in perspective as what we're dealing with. It's the same thing has happened to us with vehicles and other equipment. We're just going to get overrun if we don't take a hard look at it and adjust it. I think next year we have to come in with a real hard look at those adjustments and see where we're at.
Is that the only funds besides the Scott that you asked to put in there now, Scott Air Packs? Is that the only, that's the only thing I saw is
Actually, the
5,000?
impacts weren't in this year. We moved them out another year. And we're going to try the grant, and we moved radio monies. So the only other monies we had in there was $40,000 for turnout gear. So that went in. And that will allow us to start replacing gear with a, use caution saying this, PFAS-free gear. There's actually still PFAS chemicals in the gear, but it's in a part of the gear that does not touch the person anymore, and there's a lot less of it. So,
And is the 40K going to continue to, until
Yeah.
you replace all the gear? So
The
that will be
goal
a
would be-
rolling every year?
yep, that would be rolling every year until we're caught up with everything, and then we can drop that back and make the proper adjustments. At some point, we'll not need to have it. I mean, it still will last for a lot of people for up to 10 years. 10 years is the manufacturer's standard anyway on turnout gear. Bureau of Labor will not be the gear police, if you will, unless someone gets hurt wearing it, and then they'll come in and take care of it that way and enforce rules. But as far as a normal everyday use, they're not going to be the gear police. It's actually the gear manufacturer's standard that says 10 years. And if someone was wearing that gear after 10 years, they got hurt wearing it, then we could be on the hook for that as well. So there is a liability concern, but there's liability in giving a thirsty man a drink of water.
So what's the first year that you're starting with the air packs?
Next year,
26?
yep, 20. It's listed as 25, but it's 26.
Okay, so
25,
it's
26 budget
26.
year.
And so what's the amount for 26 that you'll be spending, or the cost?
We're looking at 250,000-ish. Of course, that amount will vary depending on price increases, which are usually experienced every January on everything that we buy and use. So I can't predict what that will be. And we are going to continue to work for the grants. As I said, we were going to do both this year, and both of them would have been allowable under the same category, but what we found out is it would have diminished our chances if we had put in both things under that one category. So we picked the most important one at this moment, which is communications, and applied the grant to that, applied for that in a grant.
Okay, is there a cost to the air packs in 27?
27, just our normal maintenance if we purchase them in that year. So flow testing is about $4,800 a year. There shouldn't be any other maintenance other than wear and tear or breakage due to them being new and warranted for that kind of a repair. But flow testing would be the ongoing cost.
Is there an expense in 28 for the air packs?
Yep, just the ongoing
Maintenance?
maintenance, and flow testing is annual.
And it's not CIP, it's...
That comes on our operations budget, not out of CIP. Yes, sorry. Sorry, I didn't clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chief, at 250, 1 year and 40,000 for the gear,
Who does?
is there a way you can phase in the Scots the same way you're phasing in the, I know this is a silly question if you're trying
Yeah.
to convert to a new brand.
Yeah.
Realistically, with everything that's on the doctor, everything we're talking about between, you know, Public Works and yours, and the school coming on, all in the next 4 years, say, let's say, realistically, maybe 5, and the desire to use up all the bond money that's coming, that's gonna roll over right now for the facility, that's a huge chunk
It
to
is.
add to the budget. So at 40,000 for the gear, 250,000, how many air packs that buy?
20, don't hold me to the number, I think it's 24. I do believe it's
So
24.
say that's about 10 grand a pack.
Yeah, it is. Which was 5,000 the last time we bought any.
Oh, I've seen the prices increase.
doubled.
Everything with steel's got tariffs, and it's all
Correct.
coming in from out of the country, so it's
Correct.
not gonna go down.
So I think to kind of answer that question or add clarity to it, I could tell you absolutely yes. I mean, you can probably make anything happen, but it becomes a training issue at that point. You have to do annual training on the air pack, and these new packs have a different standard that they're built to. So we would have to do that. Again, not an insurmountable issue, I guess, in the long term. The newer packs, the mass are rated for a higher temperature. The old packs, the face pieces tend to melt at about 350, 375 degrees, a temperature very easily reached in this current fire atmospheres with the fuels that are burning in structural fires, which is a bad thing. No one wants their face piece to melt because that's letting that hot air into your airway. At that point, the new ones are rated much higher. They're very close to 500 degrees. So, you know, we got to look at all those things, I believe, and weigh out the differences. It would create some logistical issues for sure. Could it be done?
Let me
Yeah.
get to the point, and I'm looking at rescue, and I know what kind of a beating they take, and when they get old, they start to be in the shop more. And I'll ask the question on maintenance afterwards, but to even get close to that 450 mark, without going to bond, which may not be an option, you're going to need an increase in the 75,000.
Yes.
Whether it's 125 to 125. So say it's 50, just to be realistic.
Yeah.
Just to be realistic. And then you've got gear at 40. And if you could do, I don't know, 5 packs or even half the amount. 5 packs is 50,000. So you're already looking at 120,000, 125,000 increase just to meet your needs.
Correct.
That's if you phase it in so that you can make the target on all 3 things.
Correct. We're really hoping that we do get the grant. I think we'll be able to prove that, but I think if we went any less than half, that half may be the way it may work, but if we went any less than half, then you're really into, you know, what truck do you have and what air pack do you actually have to put on? And we already have an issue with different departments around us using different brands, and of course that creates a whole thing because under OSHA and BLS ruling, you have to be trained on that specific pack, whether it's the same brand, different model, or different brand and different model. And there's so many intricacies in different brands and what features they do have. We're already dealing with that with other towns in our mutual aid pacts, if you will. I would advocate for the majority or the most that we can possibly do, and still, obviously, we want to work with the town to make sure we can afford these things. We have a lot of goals to achieve.
Well, even if you do the simple math, if you don't get in the group savings package, you're looking at another $50,000 anyway, if not 70, 75 by the time you get it saved up.
Right.
So to get to 450 by 2027, and that's out 2 years further than you really wanted, but according to your chart you had here,
Yeah, we're already that far, yeah.
you're looking at 100,000 just for the rescue.
Right. Right.
If we don't bond.
I mean, that price would be locked in if we bought that truck today at that price, but we just have to commit to the rest of the money. So obviously, the 188 would be one heck of a down payment. So that would help it, and that would lock it in for that. It's kind of like what we did with other vehicles we've bought or prepaid for the whole chassis, and locked the truck in that way. We've also done the pre-buy of the whole vehicle. And that's worked, and we've done the regional bid process with the Houston-Galveston Area Coalition and Group Buy that we joined that, and that saved us $25,000 on the last engine that we purchased, which we still haven't seen. I think it will be next year, about this time.
Could you explain to the group, I saw when we took and bought a chassis and moved the whole back compartment over. Could you explain to the group if that's even possible?
The one that we rehabilitated?
Yes.
Yeah, years ago we did do that. It was a tank truck that we did that on. What we did is took an older chassis that we had, but the pump and the tank were failing on it, and had a new tank and a new pump installed on that. It worked great for about another, I would say it was, Kathy wrote the grant on that. 8 years did we get out of that before? Yeah, I just wanted to be close to accurate. About 8 years out of it. Back then it was, God, 180 to 225, I think, somewhere in that, again, area for money just to do what we did with it. We gained 8 years, and then we were able to get a grant to replace the truck as the chassis now was failing. But the chassis at that point was almost 30 years old, and it had been an over-the-road truck, tractor trailer, so.
No way to do that with an ambulance?
The new plan is that, exactly. So with the new plan with the Braun ambulance, their boxes are remountable 5 times, or up to 5 times, I'll say that. What they do is they take the box off, lower it down on the new chassis. It's a plug-and-play thing, so the way they've engineered it, you can plug and play into a new chassis as long as there's not too many changes to these chassis. And they'll sand down and repaint and replace computer modules that need to be upgraded and such. And the cost at that point is about just a hair north of half of the cost of a new ambulance. So the goal would be the current Rescue, the old Rescue 2, it's 35 now, will be rechassied in about 4 or 5 years. The one we're buying here will go almost 10 and then get rechassied, and about half the cost.
And you can't do that with a Ford?
Can't do that with that truck. That's a wooden truck, and I say that it's true. There's a lot of wood in that truck in a vehicle that goes down the road. The floors are wood, sandwiched between metal, so you end up with a lot of rot and things like that in those trucks.
Deanna has a hand up. Can we bring her in, please?
Thank you so much. Sorry about that. I tried to say something earlier and my mute was stuck. So my question was the ambulance replacement. We said we were working with 5 other towns in order to get the $50,000 in savings. Do we all have to buy it at the same time?
Yes.
Or could we do? Okay. Are they prepared to buy it now?
Yep. That they are.
Okay. Perfect. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So if we hold them up, that
Well, yeah, I think we could hurt them as well, but we're definitely hurting us for the potential of that whole $50,000 and any increase that we might see in the year down the road. I just don't know where to go with it at this point, but yeah, that'd be what we have to do.
So what is the holdup?
When we put in the 450 and it ended up being 115 in the account, which when we add it together with what we had in reserve already, it's 188. So the whole amount somehow just never made it in there. Apparently, I missed it when we sat down and looked at the numbers. I looked at the numbers and said 115, and that must be the difference we need to make it up to the 450. And because I didn't know what our balance was at that time, and just kind of breezed through it. So somewhere the numbers just got moved around or changed or what have you. But we're here now, and we just got to solve a problem. And I think it's solvable. I believe that if we were able to purchase and put the down payment in, I think the only issue is going to be, and I look at the manager for a nod, yay, nay, or what have you, but is how can you put that out 2 years and guarantee we have it? And I don't know if we can.
We can never,
Can't.
you can never guarantee what the voters will or won't approve.
Correct.
So is it likely that the voters will pass it? Of course it is, because most budget articles do go through, especially for needful things, the fire department, the school, etc.
Right.
But I can't guarantee that they're going to approve that we collect taxes even.
Right.
It's,
Well, that's true.
yeah, I mean, there's, none of the articles are guaranteed, but it's as much of a guarantee as any town could possibly do. So I think it's still on good faith that you could move forward with that, because you do, like you said, you have a sizable down payment,
Yeah.
and that would hold the truck, and then next year we put in the remainder of it for the fire department.
Just creativity. So, yeah, like I said, I don't think it's an end all by any means. It's just, I guess, looking for that guidance, and that's where we're at, so.
What's the down payment?
Well, we have 188.
And that's enough?
That should be enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say. Considering it's a 2027 delivery date,
Yeah.
I would hope.
That's a fourth, over a fourth.
Yeah.
Right,
So that'd be 3 years at 75 that you would have to put onto it.
Yep,
So
and then
we'd
we've
only
got
be
that going too.
So, well, I'm saying it's in there for the ambulance, correct?
Yeah,
So that's,
yeah, that's
that's
what's
225 plus,
Right.
and that's, maybe I missed
I
it.
think what hurt is a couple years back when we ordered the new engine, the rescue pumpers, actually some of that money was used in the, before the bond, et cetera. And the same with the truck prior to that. That became a practice, that you have the money, just use it for the down payment or what have you, and let's start the process. And so that kind of tapped into that 75. But I think we, like I say, the economy overran us all of a sudden with the changes that happened so fast that who would have predicted at that point, I guess.
Okay, it's been a couple of months since we've met and gone over all the warrant articles. Is there a warrant article this year on the June ballot to approve this rescue vehicle?
To approve $115,000 for the CIP for the fire department.
Okay.
That's gear and rescue though, correct?
That's right, 40,000 was for the turnout gear.
Correct.
Couple questions. Couple questions for you, Chief.
Yep.
What's the market for sell? So I want to jumping ahead to these other engine one and tank one. So projected 1.4 million, projected 650, which potentially, as we're talking about, could go up. That's your projection for right now. What's the market for selling our used vehicles?
You know, it depends. So there are very good success stories. We've had fairly good luck in selling ours, and I don't think we've made a ton of money on anything, but we sold an ambulance for $25,000 when the trade-in was far less than that. Obviously, they're going to make a buck back. This deal on this ambulance includes our ambulance as a trade-in. So that's already kind of calculated in there.
And what's the trade-in value?
I can't quote that.
Okay.
I wish I could. I'm just thinking that as I said it. I'm guesstimating it's right around $20,000. So not far off from what we would get for it. The engine one and the tank truck, the tanker being pushing 30 years pretty quickly here, and the engine over 20, you probably wouldn't see much more than 30 with the both of them together out of that. The 550 that we have now, the mini pumper, and the squad truck that are being replaced with the rescue pumper when it comes in next year, those will be able to sell. The squad truck, there is a demand for that. So we'll probably be able to get around 30,000 for it, give or take. The mini pumper, I think if we took the body off personally, scrapped the body and sold the chassis as a chassis, you can get more for it. I just think when it's a fire department vehicle, it's such a niche market for it that if you don't hit it right, you're not going to get anything out of them. So.
Okay. And then going back to the packs, what are Wyndham and Casco using? Are they using the same brand and model that you're looking at, or are we all over the?
Currently, yes. There is a newer model brand, that's not a newer brand, but Draeger is out with a newer pack that everybody seems to like, and a lot of departments are switching to Draeger. Wyndham is buying new packs this year, and they will be using Scott, pretty much is what I'm told. Gray already is in the MSA brand. a bunch of other departments have switched back to them, but Casco is currently Scott, to answer the question direct, Naples, us, Bridgeton, and Wyndham, Westbrook. That whole corridor right down through to Portland is all in that same brand that we're looking at.
Okay.
Which, you know, as this county report comes out, we may find there'll be a regional purchasing agent, and it might help standardize stuff, I hope. God, it's getting out of control, but, I mean, yeah.
Are you looking at any expenditures for 27, 28, or 29? Do you see that on the horizon?
In 29, there would be another, before that, probably another ambulance, or rechassing the box that we have, which would be at a lower price. And other than that, we'll be in pretty good shape with the fire apparatus. The boats are still good. We rehabbed Marine One 2 years ago, repowered it. That thing is going to last quite a while. The ongoing service trucks and rotation of chief vehicle and stuff will be chief's like 29, 30 for one of them. The other one will be just after that, the way they're set up. Pickup trucks we rotate out. We've got a deal we will do with Public Works. They'll run them for a couple, 3 years, and they buy the extended warranty, and then we transfer them into the fire department. And all we've got to do basically is re-letter it for fire and put our light package and radios, etc., in that truck. So it works out fairly decent, and then we get a truck that's still got a year of warranty, full warranty under it, and we'll run it for another 4 or 5 years, and then we'll trade them out with the next one. Works pretty good.
And actually going back to that, the ambulance, the 450,
Yes.
are you using the way they're coming, or do you have to modify them in any way?
Nope, it's just they're set up and they're built exactly for what we need. I mean, it's an emergency room on wheels, and it's built for all the equipment that we are required to carry and that we need to use. And it's built, we call the medic in mind design, for safety of the personnel who operate in the back of it. There's harness hitches for you to sit in, as far as that goes, for securing the patient and us. They come with power cots that are pre-mounted, so these are the back injury savers for us. Things like that we've already designed into the ambulance. They're pretty intensive piece of equipment, or high-tech piece of equipment. Stop by and see what goes into it and what they're set up like. It's pretty cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the last selectmen meeting, this wasn't part of that, right? I was watching it, but I don't remember exactly what you had brought up. You were bringing up something for this year, is that correct? This had nothing to do with looking forward? I think there was a couple of, that might be for this year, there was a couple of things that broke that.
Oh, yeah, if you're talking about that, yeah, we've been overrun by a bunch of maintenance items this year. And it unfortunately keeps adding up. It's even bigger than what it was then. Just stuff that we can't control, and I was fearful that we were going to go over in our budget, so I brought it to the manager, and we decided that maybe we ought to make at least the announcement that, so everybody's aware, and see what venues are out there to help us out, and go from there, I guess. It's the simplest way to put it. Yeah. And they just decided that, you know, and it was kind of premature, and they were absolutely correct, because I think we've probably added another 5,000 in the last 2 weeks here of that kind of expense. Unfortunately, can't predict it. It just happens.
You have tested every year, pump testing and stuff?
Yes.
With the pumps?
Yep.
Is there any way to indicate, diesels last a long time if they're maintained well, so we know that. The rust factors are part of stuff. I mean, if compartments are falling apart.
Right.
But I didn't hear or read any notes that anything is falling apart besides a truck that you can't get parts for that's sitting in the bay for 2 months.
Yeah.
You know?
We're 10 weeks on that, over a radiator fan, and a shroud to channel the air, proper amount of air over that motor to keep it cool. Yeah, and I just was told today that the parts should be coming in on Monday, Tuesday, so.
But is rust a factor? Is there anything that's really saying with
Yeah.
good maintenance, you can't stretch these out so that we can get through a period? And
The
I'm not
new-
asking you to 10 years down the road.
Oh, no, no,
because-
right. Corrosion factor, with the newer trucks, we've taken care of a lot of that. Everything we specify now, we specify with a galvanized frame rail under it. So as you know, they're built from the ground up, basically to our specs. So those newer pieces are with galvanization. They're isolated, they have zinc anodes between isolated parts, so we don't get the electrolysis, which is really what we end up with when you get stainless components and aluminum components put together. And you have a lot of that. The new piping in the newer trucks for the plumbing and the pump itself is stainless steel. So it comes with like a 30-year warranty versus, it's gonna maybe last you 15 if we're lucky. Like the tanker down here, which we've replaced the plumbing in twice in the last 10 years, pretty much all of it. In fact, we walked into the station one day and the water was just everywhere. It wasn't in the truck anymore.
And when was the last time you did that?
So that just happened probably 4 months ago. Yep. So and it was one of our big expenses that happened this year, but we were covering that one and doing all right until the new stuff. So yeah, so all in all, with aluminum, the biggest thing we have with aluminum is you have paint delamination because of the calcium on the roads, and the processes they're not allowed to use now when they're bonding paint to aluminum, which is very harmful for the environment. So they'd rather have you sand your paint down several times and redo the whole truck versus do it once at a higher hazard and contain it and do it right so it lasts. So that's one issue that we have. And overall, it doesn't cause the truck to rust. It's just the paint comes off from them. It might pit the metal very little, but it's not like a traditional, old iron rusts and it creates holes in it. So the pickup trucks end up with that. The ambulances don't, except for the wooden ambulances, end up with some rot and things like that under them. The beams that hold the tank truck, the tank itself, and the tank cradle for tank 1, the oldest tanker, they're made out of wood. We've had to have those replaced. It should be fine right now. But it's the pipes, it's the plumbing. Engine 1, despite all the work we've done on it, and that's the one that's down here in pieces, just passes its pump test, which says it's in the volume side, so we're having a horsepower issue with it. So the pump has some wear, but mostly it's horses that drive that kind of a test. So that's what's going to fail and cause us to either derate the truck, which affects your ISO ratings, or replace it, which is probably the smartest thing to do. We're buying 1,500 gallon a minute pumps on anything that's new, so that if we do have to derate it, it will go down to a 1250, which is a Class A pumper still, and it's in the area that we need to maintain our ISO classifications. So long-term, we're thinking ahead with all this stuff and really trying to plan it out. It's a engineering feat with these new things. They're very high-tech. They're unfortunately a lot of computers in them, and where I used to be able to fix them in the field, if it wouldn't work, I can't do that anymore. It takes a mechanic with a computer or a laptop to plug it in and see what's wrong with the thing. It's kind of crazy. It is what it is.
With all that information I just heard, I think we're looking at a 10-year plan just for some of these trucks, because you can't squeeze this all in 5 years. It's not possible. And realistically, unless you know what's going to fail, we can't even start to put together a comprehensive plan other than the rescue that we know takes a beating, and it always has.
They do.
Take a beating.
Yep, that they do. A lot of frost heaves and potholes between here and Main Med.
So then now back to the question I have. If we can get through 6, 8, or 10 years on some of the trucks,
Yeah.
that you have listed that should be replaced 24, 25, 26.
Yep.
Other than a truck you can't get parts for,
Mm-hmm.
the rest of them sound to me, and again, I'm not speaking for you, I'm trying to just put this together and wrap my brain around it.
Right.
Other than not getting parts for a truck that they don't even make parts for because the model's not available or the parts aren't available. The rest of them, are you going to have issues with those? I know eventually you will, but.
Eventually, yeah. It's inevitable with all of them. However,
And what is the
Engine
one you
2
run all the time?
Engine 1 is the one we run all the time, which will kind of take a back seat when the new rescue pumper comes in, and the rescue pumper will be the primary truck out the door. It'll
What year?
fit most of the needs, and that's the brand new truck coming in next year, next August-ish, next June. We're hoping for earlier, but I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Well, it still gives us a time frame for the CIP.
Yeah, exactly. So that one will be here. That one's all paid for.
And that's the combination.
Yep, absolutely. Well, yes, it's paid for, but we're paying for it. How's that?
Which was, well, which one was it that is paid for?
As far as the
That's
company
a
building is
combination.
concerned, it's paid for. Yeah, yeah. But that's how we achieved the price where we did too. So
What's it have for water on? I'm curious, but just what
that one's
rolls out
a
of the door.
$750
Okay.
with a 1,500 pump. Does have foam. It was a lot of work to make that truck fit everything that we needed to fit in it.
It's
But
saying-
everything has a home in it.
And what you just said about galvanized and everything else, again, for
Yes.
long-term, some of these people are talking about being on the committee for a while.
Yeah.
You're talking about galvanized, you're talking about a truck that's gonna get 20 years out of it now as opposed to
Correct.
starting to wear and tear at 10 and 12.
Yes, yeah. It wasn't uncommon before to lose the bottom out of a compartment at 10 years.
I
Have to
agree.
rebuild them all. Even with the galvanneal steel, part of it was electrolysis and part of it was just crappy steel, to be honest. Aluminum seems to hold up a lot better. It just can't hold paint.
That's all I have.
Does it hold, I forget, it's a fluid film. Does it, the
Yeah.
bottom, it does hold that though?
Yep, it will. On the undersides of it will. There's no need to really do the frame rails because they're hot dip galvanized. I don't like electroplated, so the one company that we've been using for building, they do hot dip. It seems to hold up a lot better. We'd fluid filmed. It's actually crown coated. The tank truck that we got on the grant, because we couldn't get that with a galvanized frame rail, was built in Canada. We were kind of limited on by the money we had on the grant, so we had to be selective on our vendor. And that's doing well, but again, aluminum sides, aluminum cabinets, things like that.
Bottoms get
That
those
truck
sides aren't.
just lost the mechanical seal. It's a ceramic seal in the pump. It cost $3,500 to drop the pump out of the body and replace that seal. While they had it apart, they had to do a few other things because that one was not isolated properly when it was built between metals, and the pitting that's in the major piping and the manifold for the pump is equivalency of about a 20-year-old truck right now. It's a 5-year-old truck. So we fixed that to prevent further damage, but eventually it will cause us some problems.
Just one other question, Scott Air Packs. What's the warranty on those new packs at 10 grand a piece? Are you getting 5 years on them now?
No warranty that long. It's a year, I believe, one end to the other, 1 year, full warranty. And anything on bottles and things like that is just simply manufacturer's defect. So those are all the carbon wrapped fiber bottles, and they're only good for 15 years. And
Well,
we've got to replace them all.
that's
There's
what I'm
no,
looking
you just throw them away.
So bottles are 15.
Yeah.
What do you expect out of these new? Are they more advanced than the ones that we were running 10 years ago, or I was?
They are and they aren't. We're going to opt for less advanced technology-wise as far as electronics, but better comfort in how it hugs your body, because that's where all your wear and tear on your firefighters comes from. It's how that, remember the old wireframe packs and steel bottles, and they hung completely on your shoulder. By the time you wore it for 15 minutes, you were about 6 inches shorter and hunched over like the hunchback, you know? And now these things, they ergonomically correct, they fit you, they're adjustable for the small of your back, and they hug your body, and they actually ride on your hip. So that's the technology we really want, and the electronic part of it is just a nightmare to...
Okay, what are you expecting? 15 years out of them?
Oh, 15, yeah,
of the
we're close
packs?
to 20 out of the pack, yeah,
Okay.
before it nickels and dimes us. I'm sorry, I guess I misunderstood.
No, I was looking for what you had to say, whether you're
Okay.
getting elaborate computer chips and everything else. But 20 years out of the packs and 15 out of the bottles.
Yep,
All right, thank you.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be a good one.
What's that?
Kathy just said cardiac monitors.
Oh, yeah. 40 grand.
We just started discussing that. Oh, no, we gotta keep going on that one. The newest model cardiac monitor is out, and it will be the standard. Ours are now like 15 plus in age, and they'll start failing pretty quick, and once the new ones come out, they'll only carry parts for the old ones for a very short period of time, and then we'll have to scrounge them out of warehouses and things like that. So the new life pack, which is a defibrillator and cardiac monitor, it does so many other things, but they're 60 or just
Wow.
shy of the 60 mark each.
Wow.
We have two. One for
And you
each
need one in each ambulance,
one in each ambulance.
but you don't put them on any trucks except for the
Nope.
AEDs, right?
AEDs on the trucks only, and they're more for us than they are for anybody else. So,
Okay.
the 2000, okay, yep. And back then, when we did it, we put one in CIP, and the association actually raised the funds to buy another one, so.
Okay. When were they bought?
12,
So they're already 14.
yeah. Yeah, we knew they were developing new ones over the last 2 years, a new model that would take the place of the one we're using now. It's just they're coming out now and they're getting certified at this point. Once they do, then they'll be on the market, and I'd like to wait a year, just like a new car model. I want to work out all the bugs before we buy them anyway. That will have a better warranty, and that will have a service contract on either of them, so for future maintenance, under our operational budget, we carry a service contract, and they come in every year, replace the batteries that need to be, and do a checkup, make sure it's working right. But that's not in capital, that's under us, if you will.
That was big.
All right, okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Oh,
I lost my paperclip.
mine doesn't have that.
That was our last.
Not bad. Right. I don't know if I got this. I must have, I just missed it. Well, it's just brought to my attention that my agenda is not the same as Sean's agenda. And Sean's agenda has item 2 is approval of the minutes from the April 11 emergency meeting, and I don't have that on my agenda. So, do we have a motion to approve the?
Yeah, I'll make a motion
Oh.
for that. Yeah.
We'll wait for Bob to come back.
Karen, is this a workshop or is this a meeting?
Well, my agenda that does not have the approval of the minutes says workshop,
Yeah.
and Sean's does not say workshop.
Okay, because you can't vote at a workshop.
That's correct. And is Sean's the version that was posted publicly? Because that's what will count.
No, this was just sent to us along with the revised summary report.
So it's the one that Mel sent you.
That's
That would have been posted online and, yes, and sent out to the media. So yours is the official version of it then?
Mine is?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay. So,
yes. And Mel had come to me asking, should this be a workshop or a meeting, for the exact reason that Peter had mentioned. And I told her to keep it a meeting so that you could approve your minutes. Otherwise, the minutes kind of back up, and it's better for the committee to be able to approve the prior ones while you still remember that you had a prior meeting.
Okay, so we'll go with the official agenda that does not call this a workshop so that we can vote on the
Yes.
minutes. And we'll wait for Bob to come back.
I think we announced it as a workshop at a public meeting. So how does that happen, Sue, when we announce at a public meeting that we're gonna have a workshop in May?
Well, if you look at the agenda, you'll see that the meeting is called to order, approval of minutes, and then you go into the budget workshop. That's what was sent out to you.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that way you can still do the minutes.
I like that.
It's starting as a meeting,
Okay.
Where you get two for the price of one.
yes. And let you have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
I'd get well again, it was good.
I guess we just started the workshop a
Workshop,
little
and I
early.
didn't have anything about minutes in here. And where's your agenda?
Well, they asked for more questions. Said
His
no,
agenda
so.
calls it a meeting and
Because I think next we're going to
So
comp
we're now
plan.
going to go with the official
I can
agenda.
text, if need be, I can text you.
Love that.
Okay.
All right.
Would you like me to make a motion?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from April 11th, the emergency meeting.
Second?
Is there any discussion on the minutes?
No, thank you for putting those minutes together, and
Okay,
it says what it needs to.
all right. All those in favor? Okay, any opposed? None? The motion carries. All right. And now for the comprehensive plan. Peter, would you like to? Oh, Kayla. Okay, all right, thank you.
Kayla Gonzalez. I live on Webbs Mills Road, and today I'm here in my capacity as co-chair of the Comprehensive Plan Committee. I believe we were asked, Peter and I here tonight, to maybe just talk about what's coming in the future or what citizens may want in the future. We clearly are not going to have any budget line items for the next 5 to 10 years for you. But I can at least tell you some of the common themes based on the public events that we've had and surveys that we've conducted. So I guess to start off with, the 2 events and the surveys, a lot of citizens reply that they would like to see investments in a few areas, such as the Village, Webbs Mills Road, Route 302. And the reason for this would be transportation, largely safety for driving, walking, and biking along our main routes. So this also would include Egypt Road and Cape Road, which I did not mention earlier. There's concerns about traffic congestion along 302 and the lack of sidewalks. And I would think that lack of sidewalks probably is majorly just around our Village area, connecting Main Street, Village, Route 302. And I think it would be lovely if we could have, or what citizens have given us feedback on, is sidewalks on Webbs Mills Road as well. I think we also have to keep in mind that a lot of our major roads are not town-owned, though. So we would have to work with the state or come up with our own funds for those sort of projects. Some wants with our community. We have heard things like they would like to invest in community spaces, town centers, playgrounds, and parks. And I would also just like to let you know about our vision statement. Our accepted statement, and anything that would sort of relate to CIP-related things, is that Raymond will meet future challenges with improved sidewalks, roads, community spaces, town services, facilities, schools, broadband, internet access. So those are the things that sort of would apply to CIP projects in the future. And I think that's a pretty brief synopsis of it. and I can let either Peter continue, or I'm willing to answer some questions.
The summaries in that back, page 11, where 67, the number of people, or the percentage, it must be number of people. But talking about traffic, I'm talking about the traffic and sidewalks, I'm sure it's all tied in there.
Yes, so those are, I think this probably comes from surveys, so they pick like the most common word that's talked about. So the most common word would have been sidewalks. So as you can tell, that's something that our citizens are very concerned that we have a lack of. Not that they're praising our sidewalks, this would be, we would like to see more sidewalks. So yes, that's why that's sort of in bigger lettering. So that would have been the most frequent word used, followed by, it looks like bikes, area, road. You will notice some discrepancies, what I consider a little bit of a discrepancy between the two reports. Our first public workshop was at a basketball game with lots of parents and young families. Our second, future land use workshop was a different crowd. So there is a big difference. A lot of the first workshop that we held with the younger families wanted to see a lot of investment in Route 302, restaurants, you know, a lot more investment there, and then it was the exact opposite in our second workshop. So I think that was just based on who was there, sort of the demographics of who was there. But I think overall, when you look at the surveys, including our first unofficial survey, at like what I like to call as our pom-pom survey, we had about 980 respondents, I want to say. 981, okay. The second top priority was infrastructure. That is to note, after natural resources.
590.
And infrastructure was labeled as sidewalks and,
Very, very broad questions.
Very broad, yeah.
But we drilled down some more. Can I walk
Yep,
you through
yeah,
something?
I knew Peter would give you the details.
You know, it's a lot easier to listen to Kayla than me, but what I'll tell you is this. Number one is that I'm speaking as a co-chair of the Comprehensive Plan Committee. I'm not speaking as a private citizen, and I always like to make that distinction. The other thing I'll tell you is it's been very refreshing serving on this committee, because it's the first time I've been on a committee where nobody has to agree. Where there's no pressure there, because really it's the community that's basically, all we do is collect data. So we do normally agree, but we don't have to, and that's refreshing. As far as I'll give you a quick background. We did the first, as Kayla referred to, in November 2021, an informal pom-pom survey at the election, and you know, she highlighted some of those. The top three were basically natural resources, improve infrastructure, and grow the economy. Very, very general. Didn't get into, well, what do you mean by economy? Do you mean the small businesses? Do you mean the environment? Because, you know, tourism is the #1 economy in the town. And we didn't drill down to that. And what I'm proud about as far as the pom-pom survey goes is we did this before we had the $100,000 consultants North Star come in to guide us. We were that anxious to get started and try and collect community opinion and information. One of the frustrations in this committee that I think myself and a number of the committee members have dealt with is the fact that we've been in this about 18 months. We've got about another 6 months to go on it. We started acquiring data almost from the onset. And we've had 4 good surveys that I think were fairly representative of the community. We can't act on any of them. It's going to be in June of next year that the town is going to basically say yay or nay to this whole plan. Did we get it right? Do we represent what the community is really looking for and where they think the town is going? But the frustration is we really can't do anything now other than to continue to acquire data. And when these opportunities arrive, try and inform. And I know that this committee especially is very interested in getting information. So that's why I provided a little information on the surveys. We did a second survey. It was called the Summer Survey, and that was with our expensive consultants. And they did a great job in putting it together. It was an online survey. It was the Summer Survey 2022. We had 206 respondents, and we collected significant demographic data. Significant. So when you're talking about in terms of what are we doing for planning down the road, the comprehensive plan is a wealth of information. Everything from what does the community feel about things like resiliency or climate change. You know, I'm faced with that almost daily as far as climate change. And the question I'm asked is, well, you know, is this the normal cycle of weather? Or is this something that's induced by man's activity? But I figured it out. I got the answer. I say yes. So you know, that makes it real easy. But anyway, 55% of the respondents in the 2022 Summer Survey said they had been impacted by climate change. Well, what has that got to do with the Budget Finance Committee and capital improvement? Well, the demographics, especially going forward, is something that you'd like to know, like the largest population or the only population growth from the last census for the town of Raymond is for individuals over the age of 65. I would think that would be something in the planning stage when you're looking at putting money aside. You would consider, and that's helpful information. So we acquired quite a bit of demographic information. Like I said, we got 206 respondents for that in January of 2024. And I didn't give you the handout for the summer of 22, but if you look at January, I think it's labeled February on your handout, of 2024, this was an in-person community workshop that was administered both by the Comprehensive Plan Committee and North Star. There was 64 attendants, and 57 other individuals basically answered the survey online. And so I can just tell you that if you look at that, I think it's labeled February 24. If you just quickly go through this, I can give you a summary, and I didn't give you all the pages because I know you guys got a lot to read.
Peter, excuse me, before you move on, that
Yeah.
first summer one, you had 206. How
Yeah.
did you receive those? Were they through a website or?
It was a
email?
website, and like I say, we have very,
website?
very capable consultants. They set up the website for us. If you've gone on to the website that's on the town website, comprehensive plan, you'll see a pretty nice presentation. Everything from QR codes that I didn't even know what they were, to a video of Sebago Lake that the committee took. And we actually got to look and see a couple of the changes to the lake that hopefully are going to get changed back. Sounds like they are. So we got a good tour there. But for this 2024 January, what we had was an open type of a meeting, workshop. And we received, like I say, we received 64 individuals that actually came and signed in, and then we had another 57 respond to the survey. And if you look at the next page, places to protect. Number one was lakes. Protect our lakes. And that's basically because number one, that's probably the reason most people moved here, was to be in this rural lake region. And it can't be lost that it's also the major source of revenue for the town, whether that be from people from away coming here and visiting and vacation here, to what I believe is the people that get taxed the most real estate wise in this town. And the majority of those individuals own lake frontage, and the majority of those individuals are not year-round residents. So that's the goose that lays the golden egg for us, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. They're here 2 or 3 weeks in the summer, they pay the highest taxes, they don't use any services. You know, it's a pretty nice economic situation to be in. You want to preserve those lakes, but also they're beautiful. So I get that. Growth, if you look at the bottom of that graph, it's directed, growth directed towards Main Street and the Village. Main Street and the Village was number one in the survey. It's where people wanted to see growth, not necessarily down on 302. In the next page, the activity map places unsafe to bike, walk, or drive. And this kind of comes under infrastructure because the roads unsafe for walking or biking include Webb's Mills Road, Raymond Cape Road, North Raymond Road, and Route 302. I kind of made a little bit of a plea at a Budget Finance Committee meeting that was with the Select Board as far as, well, the CIP has sidewalks in there, you know, and there was $41,000 that somehow got put in the general fund. And can we just put that back in the CIP? And because that's a great starting point, $41,000. But, you know, and you, likewise, your committee and Select Board basically said, well, you know, we can't do that now. That's one of the things that's an ask for going forward. So although, you know, not like the chief, you know, Kayla and I can't give you numbers or dollars right now to put in the CIP, but if it's very clear that the community is going to say road safety is one of our major concerns, then starting to warehouse some dollars in the CIP for road safety and what that's going to be, I guess the community will tell us. So is it more bike paths? Is it more wider shoulders that are paved? Are there sidewalks? Once again, my answer would be well, yes. So, you know, depending on what comes up, can I give you some advanced planning? Can Kayla? We don't have that data. So that's where I'd get to just to brevity this up a bit. The idea that the CIP is really the one function, and I believe I mentioned this at your first meeting this year, was that it's really the CIP is your only opportunity to be looked forward as far as planning is concerned. Everything else you do is on a fiscal year basis. You know, what's going to bring us to the end of the fiscal year? Well, how much money do we need? What do we need to buy? But this is the opportunity to start using CIP looking forward as far as what are the people in the community, what are they indicating they want? And unfortunately, I don't think any of us on the committee are really overly comfortable with sitting on all this information and not getting the word out. If there's any one thing I've learned through this process, and you know, the back of my white head has been seen in a lot of these videos, like at the Planning Board and Budget Finance Committee and Select Board, because what I've realized is that as far as planning for the future, it means all these committees need to be communicating and on the same page and working together. Now, I was told that in January, because that's how much I was chomping on the bit, that there would be a combined Select Board, Planning Board, and Comprehensive Plan Committee meeting, just so that we could kind of check. Well, we've got over a year's data here. Let's share this with these decision makers. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, that got put off and put off and put off, and now it's hopefully in June it's going to happen. I started asking in January. Surprisingly, that'll be after elections, but that's the way it works. But my sense is this: this is the opportunity that your committee has to start, really putting the planning in the capital improvement plan. Some of the things that I believe we would recommend would be, we can't tell you how much money to put aside for infrastructure. We can't tell you that now. We probably won't be able to tell you that in the plan. What we will be able to tell you is that the community wants it. So we're going to have another pom-pom survey at the elections on June 11th. And what are we going to be asking? We're going to say, we've got 6 jars here. You select by color your first, second, and third choice for what you would like to see the Jordan Small School repurposed for. So maybe number 1 will be town offices. Maybe number 1 will be, I don't know, a public-private operation for daycare in the town? Who knows? You know? But we're going to ask the citizens that. And then hopefully that information gets to you, gets to the rest of the committees in town, and we can have a directive going that way. But like I say, we can't tell you now how much money to put aside for sidewalks. That's not something that's within our purview or even our capability right now. To put money in CIP to do the feasibility studies and hire the professionals to come in and say, no, if you're going to repurpose Jordan Small School, you know, just as an example, you know, well, this building was built for a public school, right? So yeah, we can cut it up into small offices for town offices. We can do a part of that, but doesn't it occur, or could it possibly be that what an expert is going to say is, well, you know, you have a lot of the life safety and the building, the lighting, and the space and the heating to actually be able to provide the community with maybe before and after school. Just thinking out of the box. I'm not suggesting any one of those things. I'm just saying that's what, and not only does the comprehensive plan think about, but select board's got to think about it. Certainly, you guys need to think about it, and it'll be interesting to see what the results of our pom-pom survey is regarding that. And to date, really, there's been not really much of any discussion on it. I believe the school comes back to us in 2027.
That's the plan, yes.
That's the plan. Yeah.
A question on this, when you list the community service and facilities, is this the order or a priority of what they want, a community center, transportation improvements, or is this just a general list?
I think that the graphic below it will describe more what the first, second, third, fourth choice was.
All right, so it's the same list with numbers.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't get that back.
I would cite this too, and this just has to go to Budget Finance Committee as well, just for consideration. And I just came across this and said, that's a great tidbit. So in the October 2023 survey, under taxes, it says almost 2/3 of respondents supported investing in town services and infrastructure, such as a community center, even if taxes are likely to increase. That is a major change from the 2004 comprehensive plan in this town. A major change in attitude. Additional analysis looked at whether or not there were certain demographics that could predict who was more in favor of investing in the town of Raymond. There are two predictors of audiences on tax and investment: whether or not a citizen of Raymond has children and the length of residency. So those were the two things that impacted the choice. 58% of residents without children were in favor in investing in Raymond. That percentage jumped to 72% if the resident has school-aged children in their household. I guess my hat's off to the people in this survey that were able to say that, because the bulk of them were young people, and probably not like a bunch of us old farts here, probably the least moneyed of anybody, and they're willing to spend more of their tax dollars in order to improve the infrastructure of the town. I could go on and on, but any other questions?
Yes, Deanna has her hand up.
Yes, Deanna.
Thank you. Knowing that one of the things, and I hear the sidewalks an awful lot, and what always sticks in my mind is, are the funds that we have, the 41,000 that we see, would that also have to be given to some of the citizens that would not like the fact that some of their land's being taken over to make the sidewalks?
Well,
because we don't have the width of. I mean, if you look at some of the roads, they're really narrow, and we would have to take over some of their properties. So I just didn't know if that was something that we had.
I think the discussions, Deanna, has basically been the fact that it's a combination of things as far as road safety. So they don't all have to be sidewalks. They could just be widened and paved shoulders. They can be walking paths. They can be bicycle paths. It all enhances or takes into account the increased activity we're seeing on the roads. You know, an unfortunate statistic is that the number of pedestrian in traffic or pedestrian fatalities has gone up in nationally, and that's primarily because of distracted drivers, drunk drivers, but not so much drunk drivers anymore, but distracted drivers, and the fact that our vehicles are all, you know, trucks or cars that are, you know, a good foot higher than they were 10 or 15 years ago. So when you do hit someone at speed, and you're more likely to kill them. So that's just a national statistic. I think that I would lastly say this, as far as what CIP can do besides thinking about putting money aside for studies on things like infrastructure and the like, would be to absolutely put some money aside, if not in CIP somewhere, because Kayla and I had done in January. But the real work starts after January, because the implementation of those recommendations, number one, has to be supported by town government. But number two, has to have someone or some group that are shepherding through the process to see that there's follow through and things happen. And that probably is going to mean, I hate to use these words, but it means, you know, looking at probably another costly consultant. But we need more, and I've said this before, we need more than just the contract planners that we have now. Jim Seymour does a great job. Sebago Technics, I believe, do a great job. Their expertise, however, is not in civic consulting on developing a rural town. So there are planners that have more direct expertise in that area. You know, Sebago Technics, Jim Seymour give great advice in direction for our code enforcement, writing ordinances, and looking at specs for buildings and engineering. That's what they do. We didn't consider them on the comprehensive plan as being our consultants because, you know, basically they didn't have the experience or the knowledge. So when you're thinking about what to put in the CIP, I think you have to consider monies that would be placed there or somewhere else in the budget that's going to finance some ability to shepherd the recommendations that come through the comprehensive plan through to fruition. Sure, Frank?
Spending 20 years between looking at data, which really is what happened. You did the data collection for the last comprehensive plan, and then none was collected until the new plan started. Maybe the town should have a committee that did ongoing data collection, so there aren't surprises as the population changes its mind as to what they think is important.
Sure. I mean,
That would give us ongoing data for all of our committees in order to make decisions.
Sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because especially with the taxes, I brought that up to somebody, and they're like, "Well, nobody in Raymond wants their taxes to go up." I'm like, "Not according to the survey that was done," and they didn't even know about the survey. Being on the comprehensive plan, you know, has really, you know, on this committee, a lot of times I'm looking at what's going on right now, but being on the comprehensive plan and this one has allowed me to look out further. 2027 is going to be a big year for us when we get the plans to get the school back, and we're not having enough of a conversation about that. How do we fund it? You know, those things are coming up to my mind. So what happens if we don't get it right? Next 6 months, I mean, I believe that we are. We just started getting really good at polling people. And to kind of go back to what Frank was saying was, you know, do we keep a committee on, small committee, just to keep polling? Because a lot of that data we have is just, it's great data. We just got good at collecting it. So what happens over the next 6 months? Kind of what's our, how we finish out strong here?
I wish I had the answer to that, Sean. I can tell you that primarily it's ultimately, as you know, it's up to the voters. So do the voters have an appetite to see more money spent? Are there other strategies to do it? Can we enhance our budget by looking at other sources of revenue? Those are all things that need to be considered. Not to mention the fact that I don't want to, get too much on the environmental horse here, but like I say, it's for this community, it has both economic implications and our lifestyles. So the bottom line being that it behooves us to pay attention to those things. And what that's going to take is money. And so, as I mentioned at the last select board meeting, we're not, regardless of what happens with the garage, when this town is, from what I'm seeing, what the community is saying is we're not through spending money, I had a wise person tell me recently that he was not a fiscal conservative. He was responsibly physically conservative. And he made that distinction, and it makes the point with me. I don't think we can go out and start, bankrupting the town. But by the same token, do we need to spend money on infrastructure and keep the mill rate low, or not? Or do we have the mill rate climb higher, or mill rate will actually go lower, right, once the reval takes place? But that my understanding of mill rates is that revaluation, especially given 2024, 25, 26, is going to bring the mill rate down. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll pay less taxes. But once again, what the survey is saying is that the community, especially the younger people in the community, are willing to have be taxed more. As long as what it means is that infrastructure is going to be maintained and improved. And that means, more community space and safer roads. And I just wrote the three down. The three I came up with were natural resources, infrastructure, in parentheses, roads and rescue, and community. And those are very broad, but that's what the community is telling us.
Along the line of open space and preserving things, last year, Kelly Capo, I tore a barn down at the end of Main Street, and Kathy and Joe met with her. She's really, really excited about selling the property the barn was on, and even the land across the street, to preserve the character of the village. She says, I'm not going to give it away, but I'm willing to work a couple of years, maybe do a public fundraiser if necessary, to keep that in its natural stage with a few changes, whatever the town would need. But that would be an amazing park with the sidewalks to tie into, for whether it's the older generation parking down there and walking the sidewalk, or just the community having a park on the corner of 302 in Main Street. She actually got it to the point of executive session with Don Willard and the select board last year, but she has not heard back from anyone. I happen to be a friend of hers, and I took down the barn, so I have a few connections with her. And her mother is Reg Brown's daughter, who donated the 8 acres for the public safety building. So, that's a diamond in the rough, an opportunity that we may not have again once it's sold. It'll be developed, which may be enhancing the development of the village in a way that perhaps people may have thought of. But the window will close within a year. But she's willing to work with the town. I tried to persuade her to just do one piece to make it happen. And she said she would prefer to let the whole thing go. And she has quite a bit of land on all the way around. The family had, it was a big farmhouse originally, historically. Before 302 went through, the village road was the main road. It was 302 basically. And then they cut through the swamp, and they lost the free water for the cows. But anyway, so she would like to see it stay in the town. And I think that's something that the capital improvement and the budget committee should be at least putting on the agenda to discuss with the selectmen, and maybe getting a warrant that says, would you be interested in buying that land? Because it's only when we get those thoughts that you're putting together in a warrant where we can bypass the individual's desires and get to the citizens, whether it's a warrant on the cost or the price, and I'm sure she would even do that. And the reality is, I think that the comprehensive plan has probably been one of the more important committees I've seen, and I was on the 2004. The work you've done with bringing in people's opinions is outstanding. And I think it beats 6 of us on this board and 5 on the select board. That's 11. And, 100 or 201 beats 11 all day long. Of course, they don't have the responsibility of balancing the budget and that sort of thing. So, but I do want to mention that the park is available publicly so that it doesn't go by way of executive session and out of sight.
Dennis, how big a piece of property is there on the side of the road that the fire station's on, you know?
Oh, that's very large. I mean, it's not a 10-acre thing. I don't know, I can get that number to you, but I was only pushing for the pond area. I really liked that piece, and I thought it'd be great to have a small area that's natural at the end of the road and it would also bring the sidewalk, if you did take that piece, you could bring the sidewalk down to the very end of it, closer to the Raymond Beach itself. So you'd eliminate a lot of that 50-mile-an-hour traffic if you could ever convince the state, to lower the speed limit, and it would be hard-pressed to get the state to lower it. But that's a very dangerous place with boats coming and going. If there's ever been a reason to lower the speed limit on 302, it's the activity of that boat launch and people coming and going on that public beach. So if you could imagine that being a park, bringing the sidewalk around, winding down through that piece of land and crossing over to Raymond Beach where the kids could cross over with a light, or parents, and take a swim even if you don't have a place to park. Certainly that would enhance the beach for the Raymond citizens, and I think it's a great concept anyway. I'm off my soapbox. I just wanted to say that one thing.
It's interesting because when you talk about the safety aspect of the roads, one of the things that the Comprehensive Plan Committee keeps hearing is that people want to lower the speed limits on the roads to make them safer. They're very concerned about speeding on the roads. What they don't understand is it doesn't matter what number you put on the sign. That is not what's going to slow people down. What slows people down are citations. And to have citations, the town may have to, in fact, have a sheriff under contract. Because that's the way you slow down traffic on 85 and 121 and 302 and North Raymond Road. It's not putting up a smaller speed limit. And that is money. I mean,
It's income.
that's
Yeah, that was, our whole conversation was basically everything that you said at our last comprehensive plan meeting earlier this month. We were talking about that particular parcel you were talking about. We talked about speed. So, I don't know if it'd be premature, Peter, but maybe we look into polling the town eventually about that parcel of land. It might be a little premature because we still have to, there's a lot of things that need to happen for us to actually get it, but if there's interest in preserving that piece of land, I think that the town would put their opinion out there. So maybe down the road, we could do something like that, just an opinion on what would you like to see if we were ever to acquire this piece of property.
She may text me back, I don't know. I may have the answer, but either way, if you think about it, it's a really large piece of wilderness
I can find out.
that goes right up through there.
for some reason, I think I heard it's about 40 acres. What's the land like out back?
Rolling Hills?
No, I think there is ledge, I believe, up there. I'll look it up right now if you're not getting an answer, but let's see.
It's a window. Sometimes we miss the windows.
Yeah.
And I'd say this, Bridgeton has a village, Casco has a village. I sure would like to see us have a really nice village. And a park would make a heck of a difference down there. The barn is 4 acres, the house is 40. So that tells you what you're talking.
Thank you,
Just for
Kayla.
public information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kayla. I missed that barn.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of sad to see it go. But
I'd like to thank the comp committee. I didn't have a chance before she ran out, but thank you for the work that you've done, all of you. It's very worthwhile and a lot of dedication to get it done.
I agree.
Okay, so do we have an answer, or are we all set?
Yeah, you said 40 acres for the.
House side,
The
is
house side.
4 acres on the barn side.
Okay. All right, 4 acres. That's 40.
But they do, that family does own on 302 as well. And
This
then
is-
the Deep Cove.
And actually, that's a good thing to say too. The town may not be aware of it, but right now, it looks like Loon Echo is where she's going with the wetland across the way where the beaver dam is on a regular basis. It's pretty wet over there. But it's also for purposes of expanding it, so that's going to help immensely for our town too, if it goes through. And right now, Loon Echo is pretty serious about it.
They take a little while to raise funds though, don't they? But she would,
She seems to be patient. She really loves this town and wants it to, so,
and is that across from the boat, or is that the parcel you're talking
right
about?
across from public safety.
Oh, you're still talking about that?
Yes.
That,
No, she owns, the family owned all the land on all 4 corners of
Yes.
302 and Main Street and Deep Cove. And so the section across, because of where the beavers keep going in and building the dam, she met with Loon Echo, and she did all the tree farm work she had to do, so she's moving forward with that.
Okay,
All
all right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. We stand adjourned.